Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Auston Matthews. But before we do that, as always, time codes for the video are in the description down below. I expected the previous video here on the channel to be a little bit crazy, but I did not expect it to be 2,000 views crazy, and especially not over 200 comments crazy. But you know what? Out of those 200 comments or so, only about 4 or 5 of them are people calling me an idiot, so I think I did a pretty good job on the video. But just to check in on the Social Blade page here, because you guys have been absolutely killing it. The original projection was for us to hit 1,000 subscribers on July 1st, and you guys have already cut that down by about 6 days or so. And this is counting 824 subs. We're at 830 right now at the time of me recording this, so probably even closer to it. Maybe 7 or 8 days cut off of that initial projection. So thank you guys very much for that. But for now, we got a video about Auston Matthews to do, so let's get to it. Alrighty now, in today's video, like I already mentioned, is going to be about Auston Matthews, but more specifically, where does Auston Matthews rank among his peers in the NHL? Is he a top 10 player? Is he a top 5 player? Is he not even on that list for you guys? Well, in today's video, I am going to be looking at some stats, and then I'm going to try to make a compelling argument to push him into one of those tiers, and hopefully it makes as many people upset as possible. And on the screen right now are some advanced analytics of some players who I think are the best 10 players in the NHL right now. And if I forgot anyone on here or I left off your favorite player, yeah, totally did that on purpose. But today's video, these are the players that we're going to be working with. And as always, the advanced analytics that you're seeing on the screen are from evolvinghockey.com or Evolving Wild. They do absolutely amazing work. Of course, analytics are not the be-all, end-all, and even their model's not 100% perfect, but I do like using it because they have a bunch of interesting metrics and a bunch of interesting tools. It is a Patreon service, but their website is very, very snappy. It works very, very well, and if you have $5 or so laying around, awesome thing to play around with. But moving off of that list and jumping to the current year, the 2019-2020 season, it's going to be important that we take a look at this year's Maurice Rocket-Richard race because it's basically a 3-man race. I mean, you can include Leon Draisaitl if you want in there, and what Mika Zibanejad has been able to do with the New York Rangers, he had that 5-goal game this year, is absolutely amazing. But I do ultimately think that if the season would have continued, it would have been one of Ovechkin, Pastrnak, or Matthews that would have captured it. And those players on pace for 57, 56, and 55 goals, respectively, first through third. And what's really impressive about a 55, 56, or a 57 goal season is that that would slot into the top 10 highest goal scoring seasons in the NHL in the last 20 years since the turn of the millennia. 60 goals would have been a steep task to accomplish for any of those gentlemen that I previously mentioned, Pastrnak, Ovechkin, and Matthews, but if one of them could have eclipsed that mark, it would have been the first time since the 11-12 season that we've had a 60-goal scorer in the NHL. And if Auston Matthews hits that 60-goal plateau, if he is the only one of the 3 to accomplish that mark, is he a top 10 player in the NHL? Well, looking at the historical data, yeah, he probably is, because as we saw, that would slot him into the second best goal scoring season in the last 20 years. 20 years in the NHL. I mean, 20 years ago, Crosby and Ovechkin weren't even in the league, and some would say that we've transitioned on to the next generation from them. So what's that, 2.5 generations and only 2 guys have done it? If Auston Matthews hits 60 goals this season with the Toronto Maple Leafs, or if he accomplishes that feat next season, I think we have to move him out of the tier of just being an elite goal scorer and put that generational talent tag on him, because as we've seen, only 2 guys in the last 20 years have been able to do that. So we're going to be taking a look at something again that I've showed off here on the channel in a couple of videos because I want to really hit home this point, and also we're going to compare him to 3 other players that you can see right now on the screen. Not only has Alexander Ovechkin only scored 1 more goal than Auston Matthews in over 100 more minutes on the power play this season, but he's played 85% of all of the power play time that the Washington Capitals have gotten this season. And if you're looking at Auston Matthews, the power play share, or the amount of ice time that he gets compared to the amount of time that Toronto spends on the power play, much less. Alexander Ovechkin at 85%, Auston Matthews at 69%. Then looking at David Pastrnak, 71%, and Leon Draisaitl, 81%. So we can debate the effectiveness of these players, but we also have to consider their usage. And David Pastrnak, absolutely insane on the power play this season for the Boston Bruins. Have no idea why they're not running him out there a lot more than what they have been this season, because he's been one of the best, most efficient goal scorers on the power play this entire season. And when you consider the fact that Toronto's second unit has kind of been just crap for multiple seasons now, there's no reason why Auston Matthews isn't playing more than that 69%. If you're looking at the Edmonton Oilers, yes, they're paying a lot of money to Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but they're definitely getting their money's worth in terms of the amount of ice time that both those two players play. And I've argued it before, you can afford to pay 4 forwards $40 million. What you can't afford to do is to not use them properly. And maybe if you're playing stars like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl as much as the Edmonton Oilers are, you'll burn them out after a while. But 22 minutes and 37 seconds a night, 21 minutes and 52 seconds a night, compared to Auston Matthews, 20 minutes and 58 seconds this season, I think that Auston Matthews can be closer to 21 minutes a night, and you're not going to run the risk of burning him out. So I did some rough calculations here, and if the Toronto Maple Leafs were to have played Auston Matthews on the power play for about 80% of the amount of power play time that they got as a whole this season, we can expect Auston Matthews' power play goal total to go up from 12 to about 14. Now, I know that's not exactly how it works, but I don't think that it's too out of the question to suggest that if Auston Matthews played 35 more minutes on the power play, that scoring 2 more goals is way out of the question. And the same goes for David Pastrnak, right? If they were to give him 80% of the pie on the power play this season, he would have more goals too. I think that in hockey, we try to make everyone equal and share the credit among all the players because it really is a team sport at its core, but the NHL is kind of transitioning into more of a star-driven league, and if you're going to pay the guys like stars, you're going to need to play them like stars. And another thing to consider is that Auston Matthews was on pace to score 55 goals this season, but he did that having Mike Babcock as the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs for the first 23 games this season. And no matter your opinion on Mike Babcock and how his tenure ended here in Toronto, we can all agree that Mike Babcock definitely preferred to play a more defensive style of game. This quote from him from the 2017 season when the Maple Leafs beat the Rangers 8-5. It was when they blew like a 5-goal lead or something like that in this game. He said, "It's kind of fun, but it's also dumb." That's the full quote there. I know that winning 8-5 is not exactly ideal. But winning 8-5, 3-0, I know one's a shutout and the other is an offensive blowout, but a win's a win in my books. They don't ask how, they just ask how many. And if Auston Matthews was on pace to score 55 goals this season with Mike Babcock as his coach for the first 23 games of the season, even under a defensive first style of game or a neutral style of game, the start to the Toronto Maple Leafs season was absolutely horrendous, and Mitch Marner and John Tavares both missed time with injury. What do you guys think? Sheldon Keefe's the head coach all season long. Does Auston Matthews maybe score a couple of more goals towards the beginning of this season? Now, I know it's easy to say, what if this happened? Well, what if that happened? But I don't think that it's too crazy to suggest that just giving him a little bit more time on the power play and having the proper coach in there to play these players in their proper role and to play the style that this team is best suited to, I don't think that it's too outlandish to say that maybe Auston Matthews would have scored a couple of more goals and maybe been closer to that 60-goal mark. If a guy's scoring 60 goals in a season, no matter how talented he is, no matter what era he's playing in, there's got to be a lot of ideal situations for that to go that way. And if you take a look at Auston Matthews and his individual season since he's entered the league, and I think that the eye test also proves this as well, he's been better defensively, especially this year. And back in January, the PHWA released their mid-season award winners, and the 3 Hart Trophy nominees were Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, and David Pastrnak. And I don't know what your definition of the Hart Trophy is, but in my mind, the Hart Trophy should just go to the best player in the league. So according to them, if those are the 3 best players in the NHL this season, I think I would throw Leon Draisaitl into the mix as well. But I would throw Auston Matthews into that conversation as well. Like I said, a little bit more power play time, the proper coach in there. Is it so unrealistic to expect maybe 3, 4, or 5 more goals from him? If he hits 60 goals, How can he not be a Hart Trophy nominee? Especially when you consider other factors like the fact that Frederik Andersen has not been good this season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they've been absolutely decimated with injuries to star players. Morgan Rielly, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, all missing significant time. So really, in my eyes, the Toronto Maple Leafs have been carried by Auston Matthews for this entire season. Him and William Nylander, because Nylander's had a pretty good year too. There was a couple of goals that he scored this season with the net empty when the Leafs were down by 1. I think he did it once or twice, where you just knew that that goal was coming. He's becoming a better defensive player. He's scoring more clutch goals. He was good in the series against Boston last year. Not good enough to single-handedly carry the Leafs to victory there, but I think that if the Maple Leafs had an actual healthy defense, if Travis Dermott, Jake Muzzin, and Jake Gardiner weren't all injured at the same time, I think the story would have been a little bit different there. But that's an entirely different topic. So in conclusion, if we're coming back to this 10-player list, where do I think Auston Matthews ranks on this list? Probably somewhere between 5 and 7. And my get-out-of-jail-free card is I am not telling you who I'm putting above or below him. But let me know what your guys' opinion is down in the comment section. Is he a top 20 player? Is he a top 10? Is he a top 5 player? I want to know what you guys think as well. So make sure to leave me a like on the video if you did like it, and subscribe for more, because more is always on the way. And guys, remember, Auston Matthews is the best.